Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Football Unplanned channel, your place to go for chilled out football talk. I'm Srđan and with me as always
Patrick. Hello everyone.
So today's topic is gonna be the history and the present of Chelsea FC. And Patrick, as you are actually fan of Chelsea Football Club,
That's right, yeah.
let's give you a chance to actually talk about the beginnings of their history.
Yeah, so just like every time, there's always like a beginning, and the beginning of Chelsea FC started in 1905 when the club was founded officially, and their stadium was Stamford Bridge, as it is
today.
as today. And starting from the beginning, they had a very big attendance, reaching over 80,000 people coming to the stadium just to watch the football. And we are still talking before the First World War even. And even after First World War, they had a lot of fans coming to the stadium. But their actual sport level was, as we would say, medium, because they were
As I know, the
achieving-
biggest success of Chelsea in the early years was third place once.
once.
Yeah.
Most of the times they were in the
Mid-table, yeah.
mid-table, yeah. And so the fans were kind of waiting for the first big success, and actual first very big success came in 1955. So years after the Second World War, they won their first FA title.
Well, yeah, actually, in today's football, all of the modern Chelsea fans are often considered as plastic or glory hunters. But actually, yeah, Chelsea in the past had a pretty strong fan base, and that was actually due to their nice location, because Stamford Bridge is based in West London, in Fulham Borough, and it's kind of metropolitan part of the city. So in contrary to lots of other early football clubs, they didn't just draw people from working class like majority of other clubs. They also had a lot of more posh audience.
Yeah, and talking about 1905, we are talking about the beginnings of modern football as we know it, that we have 90 minutes, we have 11 players, all of the basic rules that all of us actually know because we are watching football. So Chelsea was one of the pioneer clubs in the modern football rules history, I would say. And yeah, maybe that's why most of the people were also coming, because football was popular even before all of the rules have been written down and accepted and all that stuff, and the people were coming because that football was kind of new thing back then, and it was starting to becoming a sport for the like you said, working class. And even though we are still talking about the pre-beginnings of football as we know it, Chelsea isn't as old as we might think, because the very first club, Sheffield FC, was founded in 1857, so still lots of years before
Almost
Chelsea.
50 years difference, yeah.
Exactly.
So, as we already knew, Chelsea fans needed to wait 50 years for their first piece of silverware, from 1905 to 1955. But for the second piece of important silverware, they didn't have to wait that long.
Yeah, because later in the 1970 they won their FA Cup, and soon after, because year after that in 71 they won a cup, Winners' Cup with Real. So 2 years, two big trophies, new ones to the shelf.
And both of them in replay matches for it to be even more interesting.
Yeah, we are in the 70s. These two trophies were actually a beginning of their downfall, because soon after they started renovating the very old Stamford Bridge to a new one, and that causes them very big financial problems. They also got relegated, and that's how the Dark Ages started.
Yeah, Chelsea spent in the 70s and 80s about the same time in the first division as they did in the second division. So that wasn't the best of times. And also those problems were even more furthered because of issues with hooliganism. And Chelsea's firms were one of the highest profile firms at that time.
Yeah, and yeah, beside the trophies, Chelsea is also known as one of their fans beating system. I mean, they're hooligans, not the fans. Let's not mispronounce it. I'm talking about the Chelsea smile, and it was a thing that you put a credit card inside of someone's mouth and then you start punching it, so the credit card creates like a stripes on the sides, and that was the Chelsea smile. And English hooligans who remember like 80s and the 90s know exactly what it was.
Yeah, that was like pre-Thatcher era of hooliganism in England before she like got a hold of them.
Yeah, and who knows what will happen if the government won't be doing something about their hooligans, which were even, I would say, worse than we have in Poland right now.
But with the forming of Premier League as it is today, kinda Chelsea fortune turned back to actually being good. And they started with modernization. They started to bring in some foreign players, and they actually got their hands on an FA Cup in '97 under then player coach Ruud Gullit.
Yeah, and also we need to mention about Vializola.
So yeah, in the 90s they started to import more players, like from foreign countries, especially like you said from Italy, and that led to even more success after Gullit got sacked in '98. Vialli actually became their new coach, and again player coach. Like, you know, we're not in the modern football because like the institute of player coach was still even on that level existing.
Yeah, and that was pretty normal, but actually this was a outstanding move, as we will say today, because he won lots of trophies like year after year in the end of the 90s. Even in 2000 he won, as we would say, Community Shield. Yeah, but he won also a UEFA Super Cup,
and
FA
Cup
Cup, and Cup Winners' Cup
again
also.
against Real.
And again against Real. So end of the 90s was the end of the dark era, let's say.
Yeah, it was like the light at the end of the tunnel, but the real success came in 2003 when they were bought by Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich.
And with Abramovich buying the club for 100 million pounds, we are still talking about 2003, so imagine the amount of money, and paying all of the Chelsea's debts, the rich era became a thing. Yeah. So Roman Abramovich started to buying lots of good players and thought to be a good players and fitting to the club, because like for example Drogba, he's a legend, but Andriy Shevchenko or Michael Ballack, not so much. But their names are still big names in the history of football, but not in the history of Chelsea.
Yes, because like there was a rumor back in those days that actually like his son wanted him to buy Shevchenko and like he just like took his advice, and actually for that time like he costed around like 30 million pounds, which was a lot of money, and like his input in Chelsea, like you said, wasn't as good. Like,
yeah, he was a flop.
He will always be remembered as AC Milan legend.
Top scorer and total legend. But let's go back to the Chelsea. One of the best moves of Roman Abramovich and his people was also hiring Jose Mourinho, who actually won the Champions League before with FC Porto. He really wanted to, before FC Porto, he really wanted to become FC Barcelona coach, but someone else was being put there, and he got his revenge in FC Porto. But his true legend, I guess, started there in Chelsea, winning with this club year after year, back-to-back English Championship title.
Yeah, for the first time since the 1955, actually.
Yeah, so another 50 years of waiting, almost.
Almost this time. Like you said, Mourinho managed to get them to glory in the English competitions, but there's one thing that he couldn't deliver to Abramovich, and that was Champions League.
Champions League, yeah.
And after the poor start of his fourth season at the club, he got sacked and then replaced by Avram Grant. And for Avram Grant, it was almost his first opportunity to actually win the Champions League, but that Lampard slip in Moscow is gonna haunt the dreams of Chelsea fans for ages to come, I guess.
I mean, you as a Liverpool fan, you have Gerrard slip. We have Lampard slip.
We have everyone sleeping all the time.
Big sleeps of English football.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, they all had their misfortunes, but Avram Grant left at the end of that season. So after him there was Gus Hiddink, who brought them FA Cup. Then there was Ancelotti, who brought them a double in England. But actually the first person to give them a Champions League trophy was a substitute coach, an intern, that's Di Matteo.
Yeah, that's a very crazy story, and also with a very crazy for the neutral fans and also for the actually supporting fans. Champions League final with Bayern Munich, with Bayern scoring almost at the end and yet still managed to lose in a penalty shootout due to Didier Drogba goal in last second after a corner kick and after his final penalty. So he did something that Cristiano Ronaldo always wanted, like to score a final pen and
a final goal.
And a final goal that is giving a trophy to his nation or to his club. Well, Didier Drogba knows how it feels.
Yeah. I mean, that was the high point of one chapter of Chelsea.
Yeah, and what's also worth to mention, they won on Allianz Arena, so the home ground of Bayern Munich.
Yeah. Well, after those years it took them some while to get their sixth title, and that happened under Conte. Then Sarri also gave them some silverware, and then it was time for Frank Lampard.
Yeah, and it was
tough.
And let's say that the best commentary for it was Frank Lampard saying, after being sacked, that Chelsea won't win anything, that it will be almost impossible to win anything with these players. And then surprise, Tuchel came and won a second Champions League for the club in 2021 with those players. Somehow.
That was one of the most surprising wins, actually, because Manchester City were such heavy favorites in that match, but they sneaked in win. 1-0 win, and that's it. But I think that in that era, they were transfer banned for that season, and one of the rare positives under Frank Lampard is that he kind of gave birth to players like Mason Mount that turned out to be actually class young players, because Chelsea didn't have any other option than to play their youth.
Exactly, and he actually saw something in Mason.
Yeah, and actually those players were the spine of the team that actually won the Champions League. But after the transfer ban was lifted, good old Roman turned back to his old habit of buying 10 players per transfer window, and I guess Chelsea fans thought, no, it couldn't be worse. But then the war in Ukraine started, the sanctions over Abramovich, and even though, funnily enough, Ukrainian president Zelensky, he wrote to English government to remove him, yeah. But still, he had to sell Chelsea, and it was sold to Boehly. Well, Roman was buying 10 players per transfer window, and good old Boehly is buying 40. But yeah, Tuchel didn't last long on the bench of Chelsea FC, and of course these are still like rumors and speculations, but it was said that he didn't want to sign, well, firstly Lukaku, that actually got signed, but then he was also pressured to sign Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, and Ronaldo was desperately looking for any club after his big return to United.
Yeah, and well, publicly or unpublicly, he offered himself to Chelsea, to even his boyhood club Sporting, and apparently like Boehly wanted to sign him because, let's be honest, that would be like a great marketing move. But Tuchel was coach first, and like his football reasons came ahead, and he was like, no, I don't want him in my team.
Yeah.
And then after a first slip up, he got the sack. And after that, it became kind of a roller coaster with like coaches and with like a lot of players, and I guess still they're looking for themselves. But what do you think that will happen in the years to come now? Do you think that Maresca would be a long-term solution, or he will just be another one of those like coaches that last a year?
I think he will be one of the coaches that lasts a year, but the history is teaching us that the less expected ones achieved more.
Yeah, I mean, like
in this club.
Di Matteo won Champions League, and who would expect that? Yeah.
Best example, Di Matteo, and
Yeah.
and later Tuchel with players that cannot win anything.
Yeah. I mean, Tuchel is a top coach, but yeah.
And he proved that day
Yeah.
with Manchester City. So time will tell. Actually, I'm still very curious what will happen if they want to test any player. Okay, we have money for that. Actually, still, let's test them, and maybe someday something good will actually come up. I mean, Chelsea has a very good infrastructure, still very good coaches. I bet they have a very good young school. Something will always come up with this infrastructure.
I would even say that their transfers aren't as bad as they made out to be because of like the quantity, but also the quality of these players is really good. I mean, like Cole Palmer was a great move, and he didn't even cost the club that much. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's a hope, but if I were Maresca, I would firstly focus on like getting the spine of the team in place, and then you have something that you build upon.
Yeah, let's say if you will find a very good defense, you have actually 50% of what you need.
And like one of the weirdest things is that like 78-year-old Thiago Silva was the best defender for Chelsea in previous few years.
Yeah.
So yeah guys, this was a short history of Chelsea FC, and if you like this type of content, please subscribe to our channel and like this video, also hit the bell for notifications, and in the comments you can actually give us ideas like which club would you like us to cover next.
And this can be any club from any league.
Yeah, exactly, because as long as there's some footage of it that we can view. So until next time, take care, guys.